This is Sports Parents Are Us. I'm Dr. Lori Baudino.
And I'm Coach Derek.
And we just wanted to spend a little moment introducing ourselves. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and board-certified dance movement therapist, specializing with children here in Los Angeles and all throughout California, as I do also sessions on telecommunication. So new to me. Just basically helping children with, you name it, from severe pathology and illness at the hospitals as well as in private practice to just daily challenges, parenting questions, things that our kids go through. And then I'm excited about this idea of sports because I really emphasize acknowledging the children's bodies and how we're experiencing these illnesses and challenges in our body. Does that make sense? I'm in private practice.
And I'm Coach Derek, and I have spent the last 27 years teaching kids how to play sports. All sports, all ages. I have dedicated, my life to helping children, and not in the realm of becoming the greatest ever, but really establishing that foundation. My whole philosophy is that we coach to teach, not to win. And if your child's going to be or is going to start playing a sport, then I want to be their first coach.
That's great.
Like all over the world. So.
Yeah, and we joined up together as this idea of understanding children in terms of development and what's age appropriate, understanding how the body works in sports, and then also just how to keep these kids motivated in sports. I'm a parent as well, 2 children that I've actually been through sports with Coach Derek, and just really wanting to have this space for you parents to be able to ask questions and hear about what it's like to be a parent out there and knowing what's the best idea for our kids in sports.
Yeah, we wanted to create this platform to reach parents and children that we otherwise wouldn't have direct contact with. And hopefully we can help you.
Yeah, so today's question has come to us a lot about when should kids start playing sports? And you know, how do you know what sport to keep them in?
Now, very good question, right? And there are a couple of things that I've come across over the years. Is one, we have the child that is completely excelling in that sport. They're 4, they're 5, they're rocking it out, they're hitting the baseball, they're kicking a soccer ball like they're 12, and there's the parent that's like, oh my God, let's get him on a team as soon as possible because he's going to start scoring. Right. But my question is, are they emotionally and mentally ready for what can be a completely different scene?
Sure.
Right? Sure. So if a child's taking a soccer class, it's very controlled, it's a professional coach, it's 45 minutes once a week, it's fun, it's light. But when you jump on a team, that's now you have a group of parents on one side doing their screaming and coaching, you have a group of parents on the other side doing their screaming and coaching, you have a rep. The whole scene changes. Sure. So,
and even the sequencing and problem solving, the planning that goes on for that kid. It's not just anymore about kicking the ball and making a goal. It's now how do I get around all these other players and what do I do? Where do I go?
Exactly. It's scheming. It's strategizing. So that is something that a parent needs to be aware of. They might be ready physically. They might have the hand-eye coordination or the foot coordination, and it might look really good in the backyard, and it might look really good in the park or during a class, but it might not necessarily translate. And you don't want to put your child into a situation where they're not ready, because then your child's going to base that experience on the sport, which is to say, I didn't have fun this year, therefore I hate soccer forever.
Right.
As opposed to being able to look at it as it was just one season.
Right. And can we even back it up too? I was thinking about even like parents that have preschoolers and younger ones, even like toddlers, and thinking that they might think sports means competition and games. So they might not want to start their kid even learning sports for fun until they're older, because they don't want to get them competing and aggressive. That kind of stigma. And from what I've seen in your programs, it's been interesting to see that even at like 2 and a little bit under 2, they can learn just kind of the basic fundamentals, getting out there and socializing with other kids, learning about what these tools are that you use, the equipment that you use on the field, whatever the sport may be. And a lot of your programs have like multi-sports, so they're kind of learning a full range of activities,
which I think is so important. And you know, if we don't establish that foundation, then what's going to end up happening is they're going to all of a sudden be on a team and they don't even have the basic fundamentals of what's offense and defense. Right? Which
is a really complex idea.
It's huge, right? Especially with soccer and basketball, because it changes so quickly, as opposed to like a baseball, right? Baseball, if you have a bat in your hand, you're hitting, or if you have a glove on your hand, you're catching. I mean, it's the lines are very defined, and children, it's easy for children to grasp that. But when it comes to soccer, again, if they can kick a ball and they can run super fast, it doesn't necessarily mean that they conceptually understand what's going on. So you have to be careful with that.
Yeah, so I've even seen that in, the 5 to 7 range, where they start to be on teams, and you can see their individual skills and say, oh, that kid's going to make it. You feel like that as a parent. But when they get out there, they really don't know the concepts of the game yet. They're still learning it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's really important. And the other thing, when it comes to the parent side of it, is you want to make sure you're not, I want to say following the herd. I don't know how else to say it, but just because everybody else is signing up for a basketball team or a soccer team or a baseball team doesn't necessarily mean that your child's ready. And here's the other thing too. If they're playing, if they're in a class and they're playing, it's not like they're getting behind. It's not about keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
When it comes to this.
Can there be a balance? It's like not just learning the skills just to continue to learn the skills, but also kind of trying it on in terms of the game, like how to apply it and problem solve in the game. So there's that balance. I know sometimes in practices they do that. They'll do the technique and then they'll play a scrimmage.
It's huge. And that's kind of the format of my classes as well. Yeah. Excuse me, you want to take the first couple of weeks of teaching the sport, and then you want to put it into game situation. But again, in the class setting, it's very controlled. And we can progress with each individual child. But when it comes to a team, now you're a volunteer mom or you're a volunteer dad, now you have 15 kids once a week. Oh my God, we got to hurry up and learn some plays. As opposed to, does everyone understand inbounds and out of bounds? Does everybody understand offense and defense? And it's, I guess it's taken for granted, maybe?
It's interesting when you say that. All of a sudden in my mind I'm thinking developmentally, looking at a child and seeing how many skills they're having to figure out just in that sport.
It's a lot.
And we're expecting them to just get it. And they do. It's just amazing. They are resilient and they do know, they do pick up things fast. But it is a process. I'm seeing a question we have feed it into us through our emails. So it was, 2 is a super young age as far as keeping a kid engaged. How are some ways to keep them focused if we start them in sports this early? So I think something we were trying to identify is this difference between sports in terms of a class, in terms of exploring activities, the physical fitness of it, that you can start at a very young age.
Absolutely.
Just even one-on-one parent-child passing a ball, kicking a ball, holding a ball, those kind of things. But then how to keep them engaged. I have some ideas. I'm sure you do.
Have tons.
Okay. Fire away.
First and foremost, the biggest thing is recognizing attention span, right? So changing the activities, right? If you're focusing on kicking the ball, do that for a short amount of time, and then move to throwing the ball.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. So there's a way of teaching a child all of the fundamentals of a sport without them feeling like they're learning all the fundamentals of the sport. Sure, sure. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think I would add, at this younger age, because that was the question, is just also to know that you can follow their lead. You know, oftentimes we have an idea of like, I'm going to teach you this skill. I'm the expert. I've had all these years. I know how to do it. But the kid, their exploration of that ball or that equipment is all part of the sport. Yeah. So just allowing them to have a game with it, getting that back and forth, that's the beginning of that sport. Getting that reciprocity, that back and forth happening, because that's what happens in a sport. You have it, then the other person has it. You have it, you're looking around. You have it, you're passing it. Whatever it may be. So that back and forth. And then I think it's fun for parents. We do a lot of opposites. So like if you've been kicking the ball one way, see if you can kick it harder. Yeah. Now kick it lighter. Yes. Now kick it higher. Now kick it lower. So you can use these opposites to continue to keep your kid engaged.
Huge, huge. And that lends to the absolute number one thing as an adult when it comes to your child, especially as a parent, because I do and have heard this from the beginning, is my child will listen to someone else, but they won't hear a thing I say. No expectations. You cannot have any expectations. You can have an idea of what you want to try to accomplish, but ultimately follow their lead. Because if we keep it fun and keep it light, they're going to continue to play. Yeah.
So do you have an age, just as we're wrapping up, do you have an age of when you think kids should start with the more competitive sports from your experience of watching all these students grow up?
Yeah, I mean, I did a guesstimation. I mean, it's been over 30,000 children over the years. And I tell you, probably not before 8.
Not before 8.
Not before 8. Yeah. And that goes against my own personal experience. I mean, my dad had me in at 4. But I think mentally and emotionally is what we have to watch out for.
Sure.
And it's not the physical. And this idea that if my child doesn't start at 5, they're going to get behind. Right. I just don't buy into it. So,
okay.
I'd say later.
And so maybe if you already have your kids in current competitive team sports at a younger age.
Just kidding.
No, it's maybe just to soften the idea of it in terms of like making sure they're having fun with it.
Absolutely.
And that they're doing it because it's fun and they're finding the joy in it and they're motivated to get up and get to those practices and get to those games. And they're thinking about the skills they put into that game versus just the wins, like we talked about last week.
Huge.
So that you kind of change the mindset around that competition. And then as they get older, the mindset could get more focused.
Absolutely. Okay. Because at that point, mentally and emotionally, they're a little more developed and they're ready to take it on. So it's kind of like little bites so that we can get up to the big bites.
Okay. And I know you mentioned to me the outliers kind of idea, and maybe we want to leave them with this tip of, because we're going to
this whole idea that, if you put in 10,000 hours, that makes you an expert, and it might work. I don't think there's any guarantee for anything, but does that really resonate with me as a 5-year-old? No. It doesnend.
Right, because so much of the younger ages we talk so much about balance, and actually throughout our lives, we're trying to get our kid to master one thing, but at the end of the day, we want them to have this well-rounded experience.
Absolutely. And remember, guys, if we don't keep it fun, this is all going to be for naught anyway, right? Because eventually they're going to get to a point where I don't like it.
So Coach Derek has even told me in my own parenting of just looking at, you don't know whether your kid's going to be the all-star and go to the Olympics and do everything at this age of 7.
It's impossible.
That they're still growing, they're still learning about their bodies, their preferences might change, and they still have so much time to decide what they want to do with their careers.
Right.
So we're going to wrap up. We're going to continue next week. We're going to talk about perseverance, when to stay in something and when to know, hey, I feel like maybe we should shift to a different sport or a different activity. Yeah. We'll talk more about that. Please visit my website, drloribaudino.com, and subscribe, and you get weekly moving moments and free tips, as well as you can always email me for a free consult where I can be able to support you with any of your parenting challenges or your child's individual differences and needs.
Perfect. And please visit CoachDerek.com, and Derek is D-E-R-E-K. And you can also subscribe and get our latest upcoming sports sessions and seasons, and kind of get into the know of everything that we're doing.
We have more questions coming in. I'm going to read it out loud, and we'll hope we can get to it next time. But it does say, do you think it's okay for the coach to talk about winning at all at age 7? It's hardcore nowadays. Baseball coaches and parents are over the top. Yeah, this, I can tell you, this happens across the board with all sports. And again, we talked about it a couple weeks ago, but really understanding that the coaches might say these words, winning. I'm just going to paraphrase what we said.
Please.
But
In
just
the
language is so important to talk about, that the steps, the sequences of the game, the skills that you learn equal the goals that equal winning. Your child is not a winner. They're not defined whether they win or lose.
Right. I think the analogy I used is, if I scratch my head, that doesn't make me a head scratcher. So if I win the game, that doesn't necessarily make me a winner. Yeah. And you can definitely talk about it. Yeah. But it depends on how high you go with those wins, because ultimately that's going to determine how low you go with the losses. Right. And again, remember this, guys. I started playing at 4 and all the way into college, and no one ever asked me what my record was as a 7-year-old. Right. No coach ever. Yeah. So it is really how you present it.
Right. Yeah, and I think that it's interesting and helpful for your kids to be exposed to all different types of teachers and individuals and adults, and some are going to be more, more conservative. Some are going to be more liberal in terms of their idea of emotions and having that idea of sports are being fun. And so it's okay to expose your kids to this. It's just how you engage with them afterwards about it.
Right.
All right.
Hope that helps.
I hope it helped too. Keep writing us, and please subscribe to us and keep the questions going, and keep your kids motivated in sports.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.